Hey everybody, so welcome to chapter 2. And in this chapter, this is all about finding who your character is. This could be a really fun experience. What I like to do, and what most animators are required to do in the industry, is do your research. Basically pulling from everything that you've seen before, maybe you haven't known before, trying to find what looks authentic, and also finding something that looks fun, entertaining, high quality, things of that matter. And what I like to do in this chapter is to show you a lot of the tips and resources and things that I do in order to find our character that we're going to be doing for this workshop. So without further ado, I put it like a little collage and what we like to call a mood board together of things that I want to do with this character attack. So as you can see, I'm not the best artist or draftsman, but I do like to draw. And I feel like drawing is something that really helps when it comes to finding a feeling or an emotion. This Photoshop file, I put together a little documentation of a character that I want to do, and I've already given her a name, Luna, and she's in her mid-20s, mercenary. I want to do something military, but I don't want to do the standard military type of human. I want to give this human some attitude, someone who looks like she knows her way around a gun, but also kind of keeps some kind of stance, some kind of military background into the theme. So looking at this, as I've written down here, we're looking at a third person stance first because one of the biggest things that I tell to all my students as well as things that we do in the industry is we always look at what the character's idle pose is going to be. The idle pose is the core of who your character is, how your character gets in and out of a stance, whether it be a crouch, jump, run forward, run backwards, a turnaround, melee, anything of that sort needs to speak from the idle pose, and that idle pose must be fluent with all actions inside of a game. It looks cool doing it. So here I'm just testing out two poses. This one is more of a idle stand-up, just to kind of define the attitude of the character. And when I do these poses, I kind of look for angles that contrasting with one another. Most notably the tilt and twist, where's the energy of the character standing, even in the face too. As you can see, like some tilt, not quite straight. And this one really speaks out a lot to me. I like the way the character is pretty much just from the ground up. There's like a nice arc going towards the back. And I've noticed when doing research, this is another crucial part of the game. As you can see over here, the images that I pulled from Google. So obviously I was pretty blunt and obvious of what I wanted, like female holding a rifle. A lot of things are more authentic and very real versus stuff just for show. This guy's video I'm going to show in a second is like the proper way to hold and stand with a rifle. These are two inspirations that I like. I'm a big fan of fighting games, so trying to think of the more military characters. Obviously Rogue is more of a mutant, but I like her pose, I like her stance. Fighting game characters are pretty popular by the way that they handle themselves and how they stand. So if there's any kind of way I can incorporate this into the mercenary that I'm trying to bring, that's always a plus. And then of course, real military models holding rifles. What's interesting about this that I wanted to bring to my stance is the way they hold the rifle down in kind of like a resting position before they shoot. This is at alert where they are about to shoot the rifle, and this is more of a resting pose. So I kind of wanted to bring that flavor, a little bit of everything that I've liked right here, into Luna. And so far, I've kind of come to two conclusions. Obviously, it's not going to be, it may or may not be the perfect first try. Sometimes you have to experiment a lot more with how you're going to set up the character, what you're going to do. Maybe some more poses are required. But just for the sake of getting this underway, I'm really feeling this one. And I like to put traits next to who this character is. So 3 traits are always kind of the norm for me and a safe bet. So energetic, defiant, and a fighter. She is a mercenary, so she's not straight discipline. She's got attitude to her. And since she's very defiant, she's not going to play by the rules. She's not going to be strict by the book military. This is a mercenary, so obviously she's going to drag the gun down a little bit. And since she's a fire and energetic, she is very agile. She's very dangerous. You could tell that she's had some martial arts training background. Also knows how to use the weapon very fluently, but just not very tightly, not very professionally, because she is kind of like a tiger in a sense. She's untamed. And for this particular melee, I want to do something special, because if you notice in a lot of Overwatch games, all the melees and the attacks that first-person shooters tend to do is go with a punch to keep the character grounded. Well, that's not this game. We're not animating Overwatch anymore. We're animating my game. We're animating my character. So what I want to do is I want to do a kick. I feel like a spin kick would be pretty cool, pretty standoutish, and feel pretty good in the game. When working with a kick, obviously this is the third person stance that I'm working with. And then also first person, we got to think. And what I like to do is, because we haven't gotten to Maya yet, I like to just pre-plan something that I'm looking for. And I haven't quite finished the details in these rough sketches. I thought I'd just do them right now. But looking at a rough session of where the gun is going to be, I want to take you into how the gun should be approached and what space that we're looking at ultimately when we're playing a first-person shooter. The biggest thing that the player reacts to, and one of the biggest things that we have to avoid, is the fire zone. This is where your target is acquired, where you shoot. And obviously, on every first-person shooter game, we either have to the hands of the assets to the bottom lower hand corner. Could be the right side, could be the left side. You could have like another hand that's here doing its own thing, or have two hands in a scene. If it's more of a fight version, you know, we have like two knuckles that come closer to screen to signify that your character is punching or melee attacking. So before jumping and diving really into this, we got to find a rig, since we're doing this in 3D. There's some that are limited to what the character's designs look like. And when I was searching the internet, I came across this rig too, which is really, really awesome. There's their NC11 rigs. It's free by Aethernal Gumroad. Highly recommend that you guys check this one out too. This is created by Aethernal, who also goes by Charlopol. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Watt. But definitely give this guy a check out. These are the modelers and the riggers. Shout out to these three for putting these models together. But I really, really like what the design's going for. There's a lot of articulation in the face, as well as a male version if you care to try that one out. But one thing that I really like is that she's got the mid-20s look. She is a female. She's very articulated in her rig, and she's got that mercenary attitude, kind of almost futuristic in a way. So I also recommend you guys give this one a check out, play around with it, and see what you guys think. But we're going to go with this rig, so I'm going to check this one out. And also, she needs a weapon. So without digging too deep into what weapon I'm looking for, on Gumroad, there's plenty of places you can go to get weapons. It's not going to be a Glock, even though it could be cool with a handgun, but more of a rifle. And this rig seems to fit that bill. This is just a standard AK-47 rig. It looks good to what I'm trying to get. Mercenaries, guerrilla fighters, freedom fighters usually hands down go with AK-47s, and this one looks like a legit rig overall. So we're going to be using this weapon too. So check out Mothman TD. He's got a couple cool weapons, including a Glock, which looks interesting. But this pretty much fits the bill and helps me envision or document what I'm trying to look for when it comes to putting this first-person shooter together. So in looking at this, I'm going to kind of sketch up kind of like the kind of like the overall design, what you want to do. It's also important too to kind of just check reference of what you're trying to do. So never ever be afraid to take a look at games that have already been done or who do them very well. At this point in time, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 has come out, and I highly suggest you guys check out some of the footage and some of the first-person guns, reloads, animations that are on that game. Don't be afraid to check out your good buddy and friend YouTube. What's great about this is that a lot of people just put this stuff up for show, and for animation reference, this stuff is just legitimately awesome. And such a wealth of knowledge to study what has already been done. So as you can see, this is just top-notch weapon animation of reloads, weapon checking. This is the kind of stuff that we were doing in Overwatch 2 as well. Just weapons details, seeing what more you can do with the first-person shooter. The kickback, the recoil is feeling good. But there's just a lot of articulation in how far the weapon goes into screen. What are we looking at? This is pretty much a good representation of what an AK-47 looks and feels like. This is kind of like your range of fire. And looking at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, as we see, like nice perspective, the hand comes out way in front. It's going to be elongated from the rest of the player's body to feel like you're actually in control with the crosshairs here. So a nice good chunk of the screen. We usually outline this between the thirds of each screen. This is usually your safe zone for video. And if I put a giant field like a tic-tac-toe on top of this, normally these spots in blue are the sweet spots in camera. Same thing with first-person shooters too, or first-person point of view. So as you can see, like the end of the barrel, or pretty much where the barrel is going from, starts at this sweet spot right here. And the same thing we're trying to do to translate over to our character as well here. We're trying to keep within that same proximity of what we're going to be looking eventually when we set up our camera in Maya. And this is our crosshair here where we refine. Now, mind you, this doesn't have to be necessarily super perfect because things will change when we get this in the 3D. But it's really good to kind of feel who this character is, given that we are looking at the third person versus the first person. How does this character, energetic, defiant fighter, feel when holding a rifle? If you take this stuff back to Call of Duty, obviously these soldiers are very military, holding it exactly at the ready, very tight, very strong. But for Luna, we're trying to give her mercenary feel, kind of like her defiant feel, like she's not holding it super straight. So I think what would be great is to give her a little bit more attitude on how she holds a rifle. So looking at to what the third person has done already, we want to have more of a kind of a dip down in the character. Maybe looking at the, put an extra layer right there. Maybe looking at down of the rifle with its little crosshairs here as well. We can see more inside the barrel. And you don't need to be an artist to do this or get this right the first time. But it's always good just to kind of feel in perspective what we're kind of looking at the weapon. How is the weapon being pronounced, defined, and shown off in this character? So this will be her thumb coming up. Obviously she'll be holding this weapon, and her arm coming towards us, the player. She'll be grabbing the rifle underneath. Her finger on the trigger. Maybe her trigger finger or trigger hand will be underneath the safe zone. So you probably won't see the knuckles underneath the screen, but we're just trying to get a nice feel of how she's holding this weapon. And then of course you got the giant magazine clip. It's going to engulf the entire under part of the body right here. So something maybe close to resemble like that. I've also got another rough pass of a pose that I think is kind of interesting. And this is kind of more to the side, cocked to the side, which is kind of interesting to me. Because it's a lot different than I would expect the normal rifle to use. But I kind of like the idea that she's pointing this thing at you, but she's not pointing it quite as straight or quite as disciplined as a soldier would point it, almost like a energetic mercenary who's about ready to stab you at any moment. The whole defiant feel, the whole in your face, not give a crap, could be shown off in this way. And I think with her hand coming out here and closer towards us, I think this attitude kind of reads a little bit more fun to me, a little bit more at an angle. We'll still understand that she's holding a rifle. And this could work, maybe, maybe not. So I'm looking forward to actually possibly failing with this, or maybe not. You might not know, but it's always good to experiment and try new things to see what is basically the right fit and the right shape design, the right shape language for this character. And then you got like our magazine here. And erase that a little bit too. And I think here, this marquee too, I think this one would be just a little lower. This could or could not work, but at least I have two designs of what might or may not work. We'll probably end up going with this one just because the down post feels a little bit more defined. But yet it's always good to experiment and open with something that feels great. Now, the kick is going to be interesting because I've already taken the liberty of designing this. I want to do a spin roundhouse kick in the air utilizing an AK-47. I know, probably haven't seen that before. I don't know if any character, physical human being able to do that. Maybe a spin kick, but this is going to be what we want to do. This is going to be a design. So looking into this, I'm going to make a sweeping action as the rifle is going to disappear from screen or retract from screen. The first person shoot Luna is going to jump in the air and do a spin kick with a camera. Now, we won't spin the camera all the way around, but we will intent on getting the feeling of the leg coming from the right side, kicking the opponent or the target in the center side right here, and then retrieving to the left side. And as she lands, the gun will then return to her designated place. And this should be really fun. I tried something like this a long time ago with a character named Sojourn for Overwatch, but ultimately, because of the dynamics, the kick could not register what we wanted to do in game as far as walking, crouching, and jumping because of third person. But in my workshop, I get to do it because my game incorporates all that stuff. So yeah, and it's important to keep all this documented. Use it sort of as a reference and keep it out to the side to use it as a pose study and a reminder who your character is, what they're all about, because the idle animation, the pose animation, and what your character is going through, who they are, depending on whether they're old, young, seasoned, professional, a rookie, someone who knows how to handle a gun, or somebody who's using a gun for the first time. All that affects the idle pose as well as the animation. So with that said, these are all great things to do when you're assetting and resourcing your library to find your characters. And also, if you're physical enough, you can shoot a reference. I'm not going to attempt to do a spin kick because I don't want to hurt anything in my apartment. Nor do I want to pull any of my muscles, as I cannot do the spin kick that I'm looking for. But the great thing about the internet is there's a lot of good reference that we can pull from. This young man right here named Nate Hearn, he is just a ticket that I'm looking for. If you like martial arts, subscribe to my channel. Yes, sir, I did. And one thing I do like about it is, as you can see, he is much more athletic than I am. He is showing step by step what it takes to do a spin kick, which is gold for us animators. Spin on the ball of the foot, add the chamber. This is really good resources and something that we'll document as we're doing our animation. My intent is to basically give our character Luna an AK-47 rifle and utilize what this man is doing to show that, if you would imagine, this is our mercenary with a gun, with a rifle, and this is a female version of what we're seeing. And what we're going to do is basically play that gun into how we're going to propose a spin kick. Now the trick is to what is going to happen to the gun as we're doing the spin kick, and I'll get to that when we get to that stage. But finding out what movements look correct, how quick we're looking to attack, and also what we're going to do when we're looking for a jump kick. So obviously this is a spin kick, which is great reference. But then let's just look up a jumping spin kick and see what we see.
For Up to Canada, Bardell Entertainment,
nice
where I worked on a little TV show called Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja.
This is kind of the stuff.
In this workshop, I like to share.
Right
Plus, I'm going to show you. This is what we do when we sync
By
in
the
a
way,
real
the music
studio.
is pretty
Observe,
awesome.
study, critique,
step
and
four,
document
basically
all of our
kind of
animation in the process to
there's a
completion.
coordinate again.
This is how the pros do it, and I'm honored to share this with you. So you ain't going
How to
nowhere.
properly do a spin kick in the air, but speed it up and add a jump. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, references everywhere, guys. And it just depends to show what you're going to look at, how you're going to approach your animation, and adding everything into play, which is great. Another thing too that I looked up that I think is very, very helpful as far as reference is concerned is how to hold a rifle, how to hold, stand, and control an AK-47. Very specific. Very nice. But this is your standard real AK-47, and this man is basically showing the stance and the whisk that is to hold and control your rifle, which is a lot of great information. And I pulled a freeze frame from this video and a really cool tutorial of how to do that. He shows you how to control an AK-47, how to stand when you're moving. Cool thing I
and then transfer it over to video game. There I'll be pre-planned. Animation is difficult, but it's also an learning experience. It's a fun process, and the more we study and observe and practice personally, this is going to be the process that we study, critique, and document all of our animation in the process
to add it to my library. So I can use this to quickly put it side by side with my sketches or my doodle to see what forms I can add or which shapes I can add to my pose, to my gesture, to kind of get that feel of she's in control, but she's also her own character. She's also a mercenary, a fighter. Fighter stance, add it with rifle stance, it all comes together. So yeah, that is the importance of reference and resourcing. Defining reference and doing research on your character is key to working in the gaming industry, as well as AAA studios. I can tell you, after working at Blizzard and working at NetherRealm, we're usually assigned an entire day to do this research, and which is more than enough, but it also gives you a lot of leeway and flexibility to basically show others what your plan is, how you're fixing to execute it, and what your ideas are. A lot of people, when collaborating in a studio, they're more visual people than actually descriptive people. Sometimes you could tell me what you want in a character, but I won't see it until I'm visually shown it. And vice versa. Some people are more descriptive than actually visual, and they'll do it for themselves. But when you're talking to a giant team, or you're super, so you have 2 leads or 1 supervisor or director you're trying to pitch this to, especially if it's a new character, just like Baptiste, for example, in Overwatch, there's an idea on a piece of paper, but visually we haven't seen nothing. And taking all that research and presenting it to your director and your team is vital in order to get something working. You don't want to have an idea, post something out in 3D, and just have it be torn to shit or trashed immediately. Then you've spent all that work basically working on something that's just being canceled. So the great thing about reference or shooting reference or finding video is you find an idea, you find something cool that's entertaining, that's correct, that's legitimate, and ultimately this can be used in your favor as well as your animation process to keep backups and to keep your character from falling too far off to what you originally thought or imagined for him or her. So I hope that helped. Documentation is important. So is your character profile. So enjoy this chapter. Hope you had fun.